Hey guys, it's Nathan here, and today we're talking about the safety data sheet register. So this is one of the core registers you'll need if you're going for ISO certification, and it is one of the few documents that is explicitly mentioned in the health and safety regulations. If you have hazardous chemicals in the workplace, you need to have safety data sheets available, and you need to have a safety data sheet register. There is an exclusion in the regulations for, don't quote me on it, but it's something like household chemicals used in a household way that are kept in household quantities. So, for example, if you have a can of fly spray in the office, that's a household chemical. You've only got one can, that's a household quantity, and you're using it in a household manner to kill flies, the same as we would in our house, then technically, I believe, then you are not subject to those regulations. But generally, most places will just get the SDS. It's easier than trying to pick through the regs to find out if there's an exclusion or not. So safety data sheets, yeah, they basically list all of the hazardous chemicals in the workplace. Technically, they need to be within the last 5 years. They need to be less than 5 years old. Legally, they are meant to be supplied by the supplier or the manufacturer, and most of these suppliers and manufacturers they're used to getting asked for them, so most of them will just have them on their website. So if you need like an SDS for WD-40, don't go ringing Bunnings, just go online. WD-40 safety data sheet, you'll find it online easily. In addition to that, yeah, a lot of our companies won't actually have any. Surprisingly, a lot of them won't. Anyone that works in an office, potentially they'll have some cleaning chemicals. That's it. A lot of tradies won't even have it. Carpenters often won't have any hazchem, but then yeah, a lot will. Metal fabrication, principal contractors or like companies that work in a large scope on a construction site will have 10, 20, 50 or hundreds of these safety data sheets that all need to get recorded in the safety data sheet register, and then they all need to be within the last 5 years. And then if you're an auditor, it's always an easy one to find a non-conformance, because you can make sure that the safety person can update the safety data sheet register today, and within a week it'll be out of date. If they've got 100 chemicals in there, one of them will be out of date, or someone will show up on site with an extra can of spray paint rolling around in the back of their ute that isn't in the safety data sheet register. So it's a very easy non-conformance to find if you're an auditor. But yeah, the main requirement for business is to have safety data sheets for hazardous chemicals and make sure they're recorded in the safety data sheet register. So yeah, hope that helps. Just a little bit of extra information on safety data sheets. On the first page of the safety data sheet, it will have listed in, I believe it's section 2, hazard identification, where it actually says if it's classed as hazardous or not, because technically you only need the SDSs for hazardous chemicals, also whether or not it's a dangerous good. Also on that first page, it'll have all of the pictographs, which are those little symbols that says it's flammable, it's poisonous, all that sort of stuff. A tricky one with hazchem is every single, particularly in metal fabrication, heavy engineering, mechanics workshops, because the government is sort of over the top a little bit sometimes with this stuff, basically says everything is hazardous. Anything that's flammable, it's hazardous. Anything that you can get in your eye, it's hazardous. Anything that if you drink it will poison you, it's hazardous, which is basically the vast majority of chemicals right there are hazardous. The problem is, which sounds okay, great from the government sense, everything's hazardous, so you need to manage it all. But it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Now, everything's hazardous. We don't know what is actually hazardous, because if we drink it, we're going to get poisoned. And what is hazardous, if we get it on our hands, it's going to give us cancer. And I see this at every single metal fabrication workshop that I go to, particularly metal fabrication, a lot of the paints, solvents, heavy duty degreasers, things like brake clean, nasty stuff, carcinogenic, mutagenic, damages the unborn fetus, damages sperm cells. Mutagenic means damages DNA, and there's industries, I think mechanics and also emergency response personnel, because they're exposed to a lot of this stuff during fires as well, that have highly elevated rates of particularly nasty and particularly terminal brain cancer. And the likely cause is exposure to all of these chemicals. So for any company that has significant amounts of hazchem, particularly mechanics, metal fabrication is the worst, and metal painting. Go through all of your chemicals, and you nearly need to have like, okay, these are the hazardous ones that are just if you drink it, you'll get sick, or if you spray it in your eye, you'll have, that's not good for your eye. And then over here, these are the really nasty ones that are carcinogenic, and you need to wear gloves and masks and all that sort of stuff. So you really kind of need to separate the hazardous from the not so hazardous. In terms of the SDS, this is where the safety world is a little bit crazy as well, because, technically, let's say you got 20 or 40 or 50 hazardous chemicals, and then you need to have the safety data sheets on site. Those safety data sheets are going to be 20 pages each. And if you've got 20 hazardous chemicals, there's 400 pages of SDSs. So it's like on top of everything else that you have to give workers, it's like, here, workers, here's 400 pages worth of safety data sheets. But most of the key information is early on in that safety data sheet, particularly the pictographs, because that's the one that's going to say like, hey, this is flammable, or hey, this is going to give you cancer, or the hazard statements and the precautionary statements. So, you don't need to read the whole 20-page SDS to see what the issue is. You can really just read the first page or two, but technically that they should go through all of it. And for companies that have, so for companies that have significant amounts of HazChem, we do recommend HazChem awareness training. The other thing that's crazy is because the manufacturers or the suppliers who are writing these safety data sheets, because they're not the ones actually using the chemicals, although they may use the chemicals as well, but when they write the safety data sheet, they're writing it for the companies who use the chemicals. They just want to basically cover their bum when they're writing this safety data sheet. So they'll write everything in there in section 4 or whatever, where it has like the engineering controls or the PPE controls. They'll just say full HazChem suits, mechanical ventilation, all of this crazy controls, which is really, really safe. But in the workplace, it's like, well, not everyone can afford mechanical ventilation. Most places can't afford that. Most places are going to struggle to have everyone wearing HazChem suits all the time. Yet that's what the SDS will say, because the company writing the SDS that has no skin in the game when it comes to using it. They just want to cover their bums in terms of liability. So they just say, you need all of this stuff. So that's where the safety world meets the real world, and it can be impossible to comply. So hope that helps. See you next time.